participation of the community, improving policing. Naturalism done, na? The problem of crime done. Problem of crime issues done. Naturalism done. Subculture done. Improving policing done. So these are new Marxist perspective done. Subculture of crime. So the idea of improving policing. crime we have done. The square the idea of improving policing we have done. Left pluralism done. Policing problems, flow of information. Okay. Improving policing done. It is done. How then can the police improve their performance and begin to clear up more crime? More crime. How can the police improve their performance and begin to clear up more crime? How can they begin to clear up more? Essentially, argue that the community so that the flow of information on which the police rely increases. This approach involves maximizing the role of the police in shaping public police policy through the democratically elected police authorities. The authority should play a major role in determining which incident the police become involved in, unless should be responded. Unless directed to take action by the police authority, the police should only respond to public requests for help. The public should also play a major role in determining which incident the police become involved in, unless directed to take action by the police authorities. The police should only respond to public requests for help. See little role for stop and search. So because it antagonizes the public or for police on the bit, because they very rarely discover crime. Instead, the police should spend as much of their time as possible actually investigating crime. The public should also play a major role in determining which incidents the police become involved in. Unless directed to take action by the police authority, the police should also only respond to public requests for help. can play a little role for stop and search because it antagonizes the public, or for police on the beat because they very rarely discover crime. Instead, the police should spend as much of their time as possible actually investigating crime. Hello Ashutosh, I am following Pomodoro technique. You can just look at the timer. I'll reply after 30 minutes. Hare Krishna Ashutosh. Joachim also identifies over policing and under policing. The idea, so idea of over policing and under policing. So if we talk about over policing, so I'm doing my masters in law and preparing for other government exam. I'm from Mumbai. I'm doing my masters in law from Bombay University. So over policing and under policing. So the idea of over policing, too much policing, military state, what we call as a military state, antagonizing the community, loss of trust in the policing system. Hi Asutosh, hello. So I have already said I am doing my masters in law and preparing for other government exam. So just look at the timer. I'll reply to everyone after 14 minutes. So this is a technique. I follow Pomodoro technique. I study for 30 minutes and then I'll reply. I take break for 5 minutes. At that time I reply to your questions. So although he has argued that the police should establish priorities for the public should establish priorities for the police, Jogging also identifies areas where he believes are over policed and under policed. So in other words, he thinks that the police and the state devote too much of their time and energy dealing with the certain types of crime and not enough to others. In the former category are the minor drug offences, the juvenile status crime. So too much time done over policing on minor drug offences. This minor drug offences. Juvenile. Minor drug offences, juvenile. So let me write this. In the former category are minor drug offences and juvenile status crimes such as underage drinking. In the latter, there is a wide range of offences where he believes tighter control by the state is necessary. Tighter control by the state is necessary. Then we're moving towards over policing and under policing done. Already done. So although he argued that the public should establish priority for the police, Jochen Young also identifies areas where he believes are over-policed and under-policed. In other words, he thinks that the police and the state devote too much of their time and energy dealing with certain types of crime and not enough on others. In the former category are minor drug offences and juvenile status crimes such as underage drinking. In the latter, there is a wide range of offences where he believes tighter control by the state is necessary. So tighter control by the state. This include racially motivated attacks, corporate crime, pollution, and domestic crimes of physical and sexual abuse. There is a wide range of offences where he believes tighter control by the state is necessary. Overall, what are all this crime? Corporate crime. So here the state is lacking. So we have the example like corporate crime, pollution, domestic crimes, and physical and sexual abuse. Okay, tackling the social causes of crime. So, how do we tackle the social causes of the crime? So, causes related so these are the social causes of crime that is related to the society, right? So, being like so Young does not believe that crime can be dealt. So you don't need to deal with crime through arrest and detention by using violent methods, but through public participation, efficiency of the police, right? Young does not believe that crime can be dealt with simply by improving the efficiency of the police, as we saw in he and other left realist sees the problem of crime as rooted in social inequalities, social causes. So you have to tackle the social causes of crime, like social inequalities. See the problem of crime as rooted in social inequalities only if those inequalities are significantly reduced will the problem of crime be reduced. So reduce the inequalities. So Young and Matthew argue that the objectives within the criminal justice system are linked to wider social and political objectives of greater equality, opportunity, freedom of choice. Young suggests that improving leisure facilities for the young, reducing income inequalities, raising the living standards of poor families. See, income inequalities, raising the living standards of the poor families, reducing unemployment and creating jobs with prospects, improving housing estates, and providing community facilities which enhance a sense of cohesion and belonging all help to cut crime. Long-term problems therefore need to be addressed by more immediate measures, but more immediate measures can be taken as long as they enhance overall aim of increasing social justice. Is it buffering? I don't know my Wi-Fi is working or not. Is it buffering or normal? Is it still buffering? Can anyone tell me? Is it a problem? Stucking. Okay, just wait. I'll check in some time. Just wait. The timer is on. Just wait. So the multi-agency approach, improving policing. Uh, how then can the problem be improved? Tackling the social causes of crime, delivering inequalities, greater equality. It's final. I mean, it's normal right now, na? Reducing income inequalities, raising the living standards of poor families, reducing. Okay, thank you, because I cannot see anyone watching it. Okay, creating jobs with prospects, improving housing estates, and providing community facilities. So many they are emphasizing on long-term solutions, so long-term problems. So long-term problems therefore need to be addressed, but more immediate measures can be taken so long as they enhance the overall aim of increasing social justice. So the multi-agency approach. Leftists have not tended to say a greater deal about how the wider social causes of crime such as excessive income inequality can be tackled. They have concentrated on suggesting shorter term and more readily achievable ways of reforming institutions. Or the wider social causes of crime such as excessive income inequality can be tackled. So, they have more concentrated on suggesting short-term and more readily achievable ways of reforming institutions. However, such proposals are not limited to police, young advocates, a multi-agency approach. So, young advocates a multi-agency approach. For example, councils can improve basic facilities in housing estates, while the family, the mass media, and religion have a role in improving the moral context. Multi- We'll be taking 5 minutes break. Just I'm writing. I'm setting the timer. Hi Ashutosh. Hi Ronnie. So I was not able to see actually how many people are watching. So just now I saw, because I don't see the camera while starting. Just wait. Okay. So I have just 3 minutes left. So I will just give you my brief introduction. So it's not visible in my camera, so I'm using phone, then I can see. So I am from Mumbai. हाय रोनी, बोल सकते हो अभी 1 मिनट बाकी है। इससे पढ़ा आई एम क्लास 208 इसमें। आई डेंट, मुझे क्वेश्चन समझ नहीं आया। इससे पढ़ा दीदी, किससे पढ़ा? आई मीन टू से। सो मैं अभी पढ़ रही हूँ, मैं मास्टर्स कर रही हूँ अभी। सो यू कैन जस्ट सी। मैंने ग्रेजुएशन इंग्लिश लिटरेचर में किया था फ्रॉम सेंट जेवियर कॉलेज है। रॉनी, मेरा हमेशा से बात करने का ये मेरा टाइम ख़त्म हो गया। मेरा कभी भी ये चैनल बात करने के लिए नहीं था। इट वॉज़ ऑलवेज रिलेटेड टू स्टडीज़ कंटेंट। सो मैं पहले से स्टडी कंटेंट बना रही थी। सो यू शुड नो दिस। बस या आई हैव बिट कस्टमाइज इट। मैंने थोड़ा ज़्यादा कस्टमाइज़ किया है इसको, बिकॉज माई एग्जाम्स आर नियर एंड एनी हाउ आई हैव टू डू इट। सो दैट्स वाई आई एम फॉलोइंग a systematic approach while studying. 15 मिनट ब्रेक, हाँ मैं पोमोडोरो टेक्निक यूज़ करती हूँ। आई स्टडी फॉर हाफ एन आवर, सिर्फ आधा घंटा ही पढ़ती हूँ एंड देन आई टेक 5 मिनट्स ब्रेक। ऐसे ही होना चाहिए, 5 मिनट्स या 6 मिनट्स। 6 मिनट्स ले सकते हो, नॉट 15 मिनट इज़ टू मच। यू वॉन्ट देन यू कैन कस्टमाइज फ्रॉम योर ओन साइड। तो अपने साइड से कस्टमाइज़ कर लो एंड देन यू कैन एक्सटेंड अ बिट फॉर 15 मिनट्स। Okay, so let's start. Okay, Ashutosh, Hare Krishna. So let's start. Just wait, I'm coming with my watch. Time हो गया, हाँ हाँ आई नो टाइम हो गया। 2 मिनट, हाँ थोड़ा मुझे चीज़ें मिसप्लेस्ड। आई एम कमिंग विथ माई वॉच। Let's start multi-agency approach. So the multi-agency approach, left realists have not tended to say a great deal about how the wider social cause of crime, such as excessive income inequality, can be tackled. They have concentrated on they have concentrated on suggesting shorter term and more readily achievable ways of reforming institutions. However, such proposals are not limited to the police on suggesting shorter term and more readily achievable ways of reforming institutions. However, such proposals are not limited to the police. Young advocates a multi-agency approach. For example, councils can improve leisure facilities and housing estates while the this one council improve, yeah. So multi-agency approach to tackle crime in the society. So council can improve leisure activities and housing estate. 30%. Leisure facilities and housing estates. While the family, the mass media, and the religion have a role in improving the moral context. While the family, the mass media, and religion have a role in improving the moral context. So they have concentrated on suggesting shorter term and more readily achievable ways of reforming institutions. Multi-agency approach. Social services, victim support schemes, and improved security can help alleviate the problem of actual or potential victims. Social services, victim support schemes, and improved social services. Social service and victim support scheme can help alleviate the problems of actual or potential victims. Or potential victims, in Young's view, the public also has a vital role to play in dealing with the crime. So the public also has a vital role to play in dealing with the crime. The square of crime. So let's do the square. What is the square of crime? state, formal mechanism and informal mechanism. So informal control, here to here, control and state. So whole idea of crime, so उसके बीच में so you commit a crime, then all the agencies of state, informal control, victim, crime state, informal control, victim, offender. So the crime state, informal control, crime state, informal victim and offender. Idea of crime, and then they are influencing each other. So this is the square of crime. So the whole idea of the square of crime. So it is that there is a crime. So the crime is so there is a crime, then we have the state, then we have the informal control mechanism, then we have the victim and then the offender, and everyone is related to each other. State. Okay. Done. The square of crime, the state and its agencies, the offenders and their actions, informal methods of social control, sometimes called society or the public, and the victim. So this is the whole idea of the square of crime. So anyway, they can ask questions about the idea of the square of the crime, then you can just say them. So this is multi-agency approach. Okay, where multiple etiology. So multiple etiology, whatever the type of crime, though left realists believe that each of these four elements is crucial, and together they determine what crime is as well as what causes it is and how it might be dealt with. Young call this principle as multiple etiology, means different theories are given. Different theories are given when talked about deviance in the society. So that's what we call it. We call this as multiple etiology, means multiple types of theories on crime that aims to explain the causes of the crime. Sometimes the social causes, of course, everyone's harping on the social causes like the equal opportunities and the development of the subculture, the labeling theory, and all such things. Deviance stars, and we have the subculture, even the lack of illegitimate opportunity. So multiple etiology means a different perspective on this. Okay. And together they determine what crime is as well, what causes it, and how it might be dealt with. Young calls this principle is multiple etiology. So cause. So define cause and solution. So Young calls this principle of multiple etiology, that is, it is caused by several different factors. Crime by its very nature is a product of formal and informal rules and regulations, informal mechanism of actions by the offenders and the reactions by the victims and the state and its agencies. So what is a crime? Multiple factors, right? So if you talk about the crime, then it's that state, offender, victims, and public reaction. The idea of the square of the multiple etiology we have done. So crime by its very nature is a product of formal and informal rules of actions by offenders and of reactions by victims and the state and its agencies. It is therefore important to try to understand why people offend, what makes the victims vulnerable, and the factors that affect public attitudes and responses to crime, and the social forces that influence the police. So I think yeah, that's something like So crime by its very nature is a product of formal and informal rules of actions of offenders and the reaction by victims and the state and its agencies. It is therefore important to try to understand why people offend, what makes a victim vulnerable, and the factors that affect the public attitudes and responses to crime, and the social forces that influence the police. For example, when examining changes in violent behavior in a country, okay, both alterations in the amount of the violence and alterations in the public and police attitudes about what constitutes serious violence have to be examined.
I made this. So, how did I? Can I tell how did I make? My friend shared me for 0 1. I didn't take none. My friend shared me and I made it all by myself. Actually, one friend helped me. I made it.
In examining changes in violent behavior in a country, both alterations in the amount of the violence and alterations in public and the police attitudes about what constitutes serious violence have to be examined. The idea of the square of the crime can be illustrated by the consideration of different elements that go to make up the crime. So there is a crime, then we have the state, we have the informal institutions, then we have the offender, we have the victim, and they all influence each other. For crime to exist, there must be laws prohibiting behavior. Of course, only crime is there. variety of social factors influence the behavior of the victim. For many offenses, it is the victim who decides whether the offense is reported. Victims will be influenced by the prevailing social values in deciding whether they think an offense is immoral, illegal, and worth reporting. The relationship between victim and offender might affect both the victim's willingness to report the crime and the impact that the crime has on him or her. For example, wives might be unwilling to report the domestic violence of their husbands, or they might see the behavior as normal. So, the crime of a spouse will have a different impact compared to those of a stranger. So, this is how the idea of the crime is dealt in the society. The response of the police or other authorities then determines whether the offender is defined as criminal or not. Public opinion can have an impact on the behavior of the authorities, as labeling theorists point out that reason and actions of the criminal justice system can influence the future behavior of those convicted of crime. Changes in any of these areas can affect the crime rate and the problem which criminality poses for the society. Just think, every institution is involved in construction of the crime. So first there has to be law and order once you break the law and order. So in case of domestic violence, it is upon the victim to report or not according to the norms and values of the society. If the victims report, then how the police negotiate with the deviants, and what is the process involved and the meanings attached by the police to deviancy, and also the society reaction towards the deviance, and this will impact the conviction rate and the rate of criminality in the society. The response of the police or other authorities then determines whether the offender is defined as whether the offender is defined as criminal or not. Public opinion can have an impact on the behavior of the authorities. So, as labeling theories point out, the reason and actions of the criminal justice system can influence the future behavior of those convicted of crime. Evaluation. So I'm not going to evaluate, so I'm done. What I mean, read it and evaluation. Relative, the theory of relative deprivation. Relative deprivation, development of the subculture, marginalization. Left-realism and the social policy, jogging, the exclusive society and the vertigo of late modernity. It's too much to handle. Right realist criminology. Then we have the globalization, marketization, inequality and crime. Gender and crime, ethnicity and crime. Gender, ethnicity, class, masculinities and crime. Culture, criminology, culture, criminology. Postmodernism and criminology. Done. Relative deprivation. Stephen Jones argues that left-realism fails to explain why some people who experience relative deprivation turn to crime. While others do not. So, multi-agency approach, relative deprivation. of Finches argues that left realism fails to explain why some people switch this evaluation. The focus on victims, the exclusive society, and the vertigo of late modernity jogging. So, what is the anxiety of exclusive society and the vertigo of late modernity? The focus on crime, relative deprivation, the focus on left realism fails to explain why some people who experience relative deprivation turn to crime while others do not same. According to Jones, the theory of relative deprivation tends to over-predict the amount of the crime. There is less crime, particularly property crime, than might be expected in the theory were correct. Okay, it's overpredict. In fact, Jones also believes on relative deprivation. Jones also believed that the theory serves better as a theory of property crime than the violent crime. It is easy to understand why those who suffer from relative deprivation might turn to theft or burglary to solve their material problems. Burglary to solve their material problems, and it is less easy to see what they might gain from violence. And it is less easy to see what they might gain from violence. Furthermore, Jones does not believe that the left realist solution to crime of reducing inequality would get rid of relative deprivation. Many people might still feel deprived even if the gap between them and the better off was narrowed. So many people still feel deprived even though the gap was narrowed. Okay. Why do relative why do relative deprivation why some commit the crime others do not? Those who suffer from relative deprivation might turn to theft or burglary to solve their material problems. It is less easy to see what they might gain from violence. Yes. Power. The focus on victims. So while left realists are certainly right to point out that other approaches have tended to neglect the victims, some commentators think there are flaws in their emphasis on victims. Jones argues that left realists only listen to victims on certain issues. Okay. While they take victims' accounts of their fear of crime at face value, they do not ask victims about the cause of crime. Instead, they impose their own explanations, which might have little credibility of to victims. So, victims' idea of crime is not taken into consideration. Other approaches have neglected or missed out the victim's approach in understanding crime. Even left realists they take into consideration the victim's approach, but they talk about the fear of the victims rather than the cause of the crime, and they put their own meaning in while explaining a crime that may differ from the realities of the victim's approach towards crime. Furthermore, to Jones, left realists only really take account of the views of certain types of victims. Their studies have been concentrated on urban areas where crime rates are high, and this might have a misleading impression of how harmful crime is, since it neglects suburban and rural areas where crime has much less impact on people's life. Moving towards corporate and organized crime. left realists are certainly aware of the corporate crime and see it as a major problem. They argue that they have neglected its investigation, and this type of crime cannot be readily understood within the framework of their theory. And see it as a major problem. However, Vincenzo Regaro argues that they have neglected its investigation, and this type of crime cannot be readily understood within the framework of their theory. He says they do not consider how crime can be integrated into work carried out for corporations. Nor do they explain the ways in which offenders can themselves be the victims of the criminal organization, or could offenders be the victims of the criminal organization. Vincenzo argues they have neglected its investigation. So they talk about the corporate crime, but what is the issue then? So they have neglected its investigation, and this type of crime cannot be readily understood within the framework of their theory. So investigate. They haven't conducted research on white collar crime. He says it not consider how crime can be integrated into work carried out for corporations, nor they examine the ways in which offenders can themselves be the victims of criminal organization. Offenders can themselves be the victims of it. So they talk about the white collar crimes, but it's mainly theoretical. They haven't conducted investigation of white collar crimes, and they also have not taken into account that offenders can also be the victim of criminal organization, and also be the victims of criminal organization. So corporate organized crime, the focus on victim. But that's all. Ideas and also. Okay. Okay. The strengths of left realism. So what is the strength and the weakness of the left realism? So they have taken into consideration the idea of relative deprivation in explaining crime. The victim's approach in explaining crime has shed some light on white collar crime, made some contribution, as I said you. These highlight the problems that street crime can cause for weak members of the society. Yeah. So idea of street crime, so highlights relative deprivation, street crimes, then victims approach, it has explored the position of victims much more than more previous round. As I said, your victims approach. So it has explored the portion of the victims much more than the most previous theories, and it avoids the most excesses of both the right and the left in neither glorifying nor pathologizing the police and other state agencies. Okay. So neither they glorify the police nor pathologize. So corporate organized crime done on left realism and social policy. So left realism in social policy and crime. Left realism in social policy and crime. Left realism in social policy and crime. So yeah, this. Okay, the focus on victims, corporate organized crime, the strength of left realism. Left realism in social policy. Joachim, let's start. I don't do that much. The exclusive society, and the vertigo of late modernity. So, Joachim, the exclusive society and the virtue of late modernity, what do you think he would have talked about? So, talking about the idea of the exclusive society, wherein the society exclude the marginals or vulnerable members of the society, the police and the state and the society as a large. They blame the marginals and the vulnerable sections of the society for deviancy or deviant act. So relative deprivation, the focus on victims, corporate and organized crime, and the Joplin. So in his more writing, Joplin has built upon left realistic criminology. So he's talking about left realistic criminology. So left left-realist criminology, but broadened the issue addressed and changed the aspect of this approach. While his work uses a number of ideas from left realism, for example, the idea of relative deprivation, it also has significant differences compared to Jung's earlier work. But broaden the issues, address and change aspects of this approach. While his work uses a number of ideas from left realism, it also has significant differences compared to Jung's earlier work. In his more recent writing, Joplin has built upon realist criminology but broadened the issue addressed and changed aspect of this approach. While this work uses number of ideas from left realism, it also has significant differences compared to Jung's earlier work. So what is this issue? It suggests somewhat more radical solutions to the problems of crime in contemporary society than left realism. Okay. More radical solution to the problems of the crime in contemporary society than left realism. This work is not so concerned with practical and limited proposals to reduce the problem of crime. It relates crime to major structural changes in society and is less concerned with the details of how particular crimes might be explained. So it relates crime to major structural changes in the society. And is less concerned with the details of how particular crimes might be explained. Jung relates the problem of crime to the nature of modernity and the issue of social exclusion. In doing so, he looks at both the cause of crime and different social reactions to crime. Jung relates the problem of crime to the nature of inclusive to exclusive society. So what is the whole idea of inclusive to exclusive society? So Young argues that in last third of the 20th century, a shift took place in advanced industrial societies from inclusive to exclusive societies. Following Giddens, Young sees this as a move from the era of modernity to the era of high modernity. According to Young, okay, so we are moving towards inclusive to exclusive society. Advanced industrial societies from inclusive to exclusive. So within the industrial society, changes has taken place from inclusive to exclusive societies. Following Giddens, Young see this as a move from the era of modernity to the era of high modernity. Young also uses the term late modernity. According to Young, the 1950s and 1960s can be seen as golden age of modern capitalist societies. Young sees this as a move from the era of modernity to the era of high modernity. Era of modernity to era of high modernity. According to Young, the 1950s and 1960s can be seen as the golden age of modern capitalist society. So, in the golden age, most members of the working class could find secure employment. So, most members of the working class could find some amount secure employment opportunities. The state was committed for trying to maintain full employment. Or something near to it through intervention in the economy using the ideas of the economists like J.M. Keynes. The economy was based upon Fordist mass production, which proved considerable stable. The welfare state provided important citizenship rights from all members of the society. Women were increasingly included in the formal economy as large numbers of married women. Okay, so let me say So, in the golden age, most members of the working class could find secure employment. The state was committed to trying to maintain. So, modernity, high modernity, modernity, some form of equality, Fordist approach, more secure. Women were able to find formal employment, and state was also committed to provide employment to the people. in the world in which most members of the working class could find secure employment, the state was committed to trying to maintain full employment or something near to it through intervention in the economy using the ideas of economic champions. The economy was based upon the Fordist mass production. So this economy was based upon that the Fordist mass production. So just let me. Women were increasingly included in the formal economy as large numbers of married women found paid employment.